You're a pro.
What's up, everybody? Thank you again for, I guess, round two here of kind of our auto and 5-star onboarding. We tried to do this last week. I was a total disaster I'm supposed to be like this big technology guy, and I can't even figure out a microphone sometimes. So John Coulter has been so kind of gracious to come back on, do this again. I know that there was a lot of people that had questions that I don't think could get in as well. So again, we're going to do this as a full AMA. I'm going to try to not talk as much as John, which is sometimes hard for me to do. But I will, I want John to kind of tell their story at 5-star and kind of how Otto has worked for them. So if you have any questions, we're live on Twitter or on X and live on LinkedIn too. So if any questions on that, please let us go. So John, what's up? Thank you so much for part deux here.
You're welcome. Happy to be here for round two, Tom.
It's always better the second time, and at least people hopefully can hear me as I have my stuff figured out. All right, let's jump right into this. Can you talk about where we kind of started last time? Just again, go over the use case that you guys had and kind of how you and I kind of connected on that and kind of the buildup of kind of how we went with you guys.
Yeah, kind of started with one of our clients provides software to government agencies for Medicare and Medicaid clients. And as that came in, quality became more and more important as they rolled that out. Part of the RFP was missed, and they realized it was 100% content and quality monitoring, which is very, very expensive when you're talking, 500 interactions on a daily basis. So you can't manually do all of that unless you've got, a huge team. So just brainstormed with Tom, with you, and we came up with 5 questions just to start running it through Otto to kind of see what it would look like and feel like from a content and a sentiment and just quality in general. If we're kind of they're kind of checking the box for the quality form we did for them. So kind of rolled out Otto on a slow scale and then really grew it over the last month to include third-party verification, sentiment, types of calls. So really have expanded what was supposed to be an initial pilot into a much grander quality monitoring program for them.
John, can you talk about, I think people get confused when they hear like OttoQA and OttoQA scoring, like the difference between, say, an analytics platform, right? Where you're looking maybe at some trending things compared to literally scoring QA forms. I mean, I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but, maybe go into that a little bit of why there was a need to, have something that's literally scoring questions, right? That your customer actually, not that they didn't want analytics, but that they really want from a compliance standpoint compared to kind of what you're hearing from an analytics standpoint.
Yeah, analytics is really, it's a great tool about, in general, this is how our interactions are going. Where we really wanted to make sure is, one, content accuracy was very important to us. So we needed to make sure these verification steps were done on each interaction. And that's really where Otto helped us be successful. And then from a third-party verification, if an elderly person handed the phone to a child or who's ever their caretaker, we needed to have all of that verified within that. So just we needed more details by agent and by call type than just how are we looking for the day or how is that call from a sentiment analysis going.
Can you talk about accuracy, right? That's everybody's, can this thing really score, how we need it to score? Can it be more accurate than a human being? Can it score at scale and be consistent? Can you kind of talk through some of the things that you've seen with the accuracy and the scoring?
Yeah, it's not 100% accurate, right? But we're getting closer and closer, every week, every day. Where we've seen the biggest success is we're not monitoring 1 or 2 interactions per agent. We're actually doing probably closer to 50 or 100 per week per agent. So what it's doing is it's just allowing us to line up agents by their scores and say, hey, John's at a 50% right now. Tom's at an 80%. Where's John struggling? Is it a quality issue? Is it a will issue? Where do we need to improve them? So it's been very useful in driving some of those lower quality scores up significantly for it.
And I think, you guys, as we kind of talked a little bit about last week, I think that's when I started to go robotic, like during this part of the call. You have pushed us from a prompting standpoint to do some cooler things. As you kind of just alluded to in the last thing you said, one of the prompts that we are most proud about that, could have been a little bit of a deal breaker with you guys from a compliance issue was, when a customer calls an agent, the customer on file must be the person to give these 3 specific pieces of information. After that, a third party can take that over, but the third party cannot give that information, right? And how do you figure that out from a transcript, right? When maybe there can't be a different change in tone of voice, and so we were able to figure out some prompting aspects that now we're almost totally spot on that compliance question. And I think that's at least the cool thing about this, right, is a lot of the bigger guys, they're using analytics. They're not really building things out as specifically. Again, I keep using the whole, kind of craft beer thing, trying to do one thing really, really, really well. And, your questions, we started with 8 questions, just compliance questions, right? And we really knocked those out of the park. And then it was like, well, can you do this then too? Which has been, I think, pretty exciting. Can you just talk a little bit about that from how we kind of transitioned when you saw what was happening and then kind of where we are?
Yeah, like most technologies, it's a kind of crawl before you run and sprint. So for us, it was great to say, hey, what are the 8 main things we have to do today? And then what was great is as your team actually listened to calls, you guys had ideas on other things we should be looking at and what some of the other clients on Otto were doing. So just being able to brainstorm solutions with you was very beneficial. So we started with 8, and now we're up to 15 things that we really want to keep tabs on. What's great is within the platform, we can really see and hone in on a specific, is it question 13? Is it just John struggling, or is the entire group struggling as a whole? So we're able to roll out training significantly more quickly than if we were manually reviewing calls. I don't know if it's just John or if it's Tom or if it's the group in general. So just being able to get economies of scale and quality done has been a huge lift, especially when you're implementing new programs as quickly as our client was. It was just a huge benefit, really, for the agents and the end user, making sure they're getting a consistent experience.
Let's talk about something that, everybody knows that I'm in the BPO space. You're obviously in the BPO space and the outsourcing space. We both hate, I think we can both agree, we hate the per seat overall, the per seat licensing, kind of these heavy burdensome contracts that make things a little bit more difficult to test, right? Because you kind of have to go all in, and then you have this big kind of nut that you need to pay for, and then the ROI kind of struggles to get there over a certain period of time. Talk about the pay structure, like, because if I didn't want to do something as a customer, I wasn't going to charge people. So can you kind of say or talk through kind of how that works and how easy that was? I think for us to be able to start much quicker with you guys.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest win, right, is usually certain tech stacks have a specific group they want you to work with. In your case, you're kind of tech agnostic because we're just really just porting calls over, securely sending them, and then you're purging. So from a security standpoint, we're really nailed down, which is a huge benefit for us. What was great is we did a proof of concept, and the setup's really, in the grand scheme, very minimal based on where we started. And then the fact we can do a per transaction is just a huge win, right? We wanted to start with 10% of interactions, and as we've seen more success, we're actually ramping that number up. But we're able to do it based on each client. Some want more quality done, some are okay with that 10%, knowing the standard deviation is within range, so they're confident with their outcomes.
So there's a question that comes in here, and it's probably more for me. How can customers? Let's start again, Tom. Can you please tell us a little bit more about the messaging that you're using with the agents and customers regarding how they're approaching the call recordings that are analyzed by AI? Like, is there any like, does your customer that I know you've kind of talked to them a little bit about this? Did anything come up from a legal, ethical, HR considerations? I mean, I have some things to say to that, but I mean, John, I'll let you kind of go. Oh, sorry. This LinkedIn user said it's for John. So sorry. I'll shut up. So is there anything that you kind of, have along with that, with, anything that kind of, I guess, scared you from a legal, ethical? Is there any HR? Did the agents have any pushback? Like, how did that work out?
Yeah, I think, AI is becoming, it's not even a buzzword really anymore, right? It's just part of every day and kind of how we're living. So even our larger partners and some of the entities we work with are really just starting to embrace it. But from an agent standpoint, it's a significantly better experience for them. They know they're not getting scored on one interaction, which could cripple their bonuses for the entire quarter, month and quarter in our case. Because we're doing it more in masses, we're able to really benchmark and give a true picture of what their quality looks like over the month versus 10 interactions or 1% of interactions, which isn't really a true representative of how that agent is performing.
Yeah, and Lauren has a question too. Can Otto see the screens? And the answer to that right now is no, it cannot. I have been, if you followed me on LinkedIn, crazily disappointed with the ChatGPT 4.0. I thought that would be kind of the answer, right? To be able to analyze, the screen recordings from a QA standpoint. But, we have been testing that thing like crazy over the last 3 or 4 days, and it has really struggled to be used for our use case. So at this point, we're just using this for voice, chat, email, help desk tickets, that kind of stuff. Anything that we can kind of see or kind of hear. Can you talk about your QA team? I think those are some of the questions too. Did they feel like, this is impeding upon my job? Is there, and you and I have never even talked about this. So this is a something that maybe I should ask, maybe I shouldn't, but I think it's an important question. How has it been approached by not just the agents, but by the QA staff?
Our QA staff is embracing it. I don't think it doesn't replace quality, right? All it's doing is identifying outliers and the calls that need to be reviewed more quickly. So we still have a quality team, but now it's very targeted. Hey, I don't need to look at the 100%. I need to look at the 50s, the 60s, and maybe someone who auto failed. And then we're working on, is it a training issue? Is it an agent issue? What were the scenarios? So our quality team is significantly more focused on driving bottom performance up and tougher calls up than before it was just a random array of calls that they were reviewing. So significantly more targeted, better quality experience for that team, better agent experience, but really it's making it easier for the management team to really manage their people and see the quality results that ultimately we're trying to exceed.
Yeah, and I think this is what's happening with AI, right? We're just changing jobs, right? So they're not scoring calls anymore. They're not sitting there grinding over a 10-minute call trying to figure things out. Now they're looking at outliers and they're actually coaching and kind of making some improvements into the actual center, which I think there's a big shift that happens with that, which I think is so much better, because nobody wants to grind every single day or every single week for 40 hours, kind of scoring calls. So, that was kind of some of the things that we were pretty happy with as well. So, John, what else is there anything else that kind of just stood out as kind of we onboarded? I know with you guys, we're doing about 500 forms, per day. We're getting up to that number. We have everything from very small contact centers that are, 50 seats, 20 seats and under. And then we have, other ones that are crazy that are, doing thousands and thousands of seats. So, there is a question that coming. Sean, what is the question? I just see question for John, or are you asking a question? If you can throw that into the chat, we can get John, who's very popular today, to kind of give some of his experiences. And I will say too, this is not a magical snap your fingers and we start scoring calls, right? There is a process here of form build out, of calibration with your team, with proof of concepts. And again, I know you kind of touched on that a little bit, but can you talk maybe just a little bit about that, how that process went, from kind of that onboarding to proof of concept to then rolled out to kind of the paid subscription?
Yeah, I think it was great from when we initially launched. We knew the quality form we wanted, and you were confident. I think it was the 8 right out of the gate, and you're like, let's work to the rest of the form on the ones we looked at adding. So that was great. But you originally said, hey, let's just do 100 calls. Let's see what it looks like. We scored a bunch. Your team was looking at them, and then we reran. After 100, we collaborated. We reran the 100 back through, really made sure we were accurate on the scoring through Otto with our internal team. And then we've just slowly kept growing it. But we're always still spot checking, again, those low performers, and then feeding. If the quality form's great, we're letting Otto know that. If the quality forms don't match, then we're feeding that information back in. So really just an evolution from, where you're starting today, and it just gradually gets better over time.
I think the other thing too is we found that we didn't say that Otto scored things wrong or that your team was wrong, and we thought Otto was right. What we found is everybody has a scoring culture, right? Which means, things can be black and white, and Otto can pick up very black and white. But there's certain questions that you have that maybe even from a greeting, like, which is why AI is awesome, right? Because before you could only say, did the agent read this greeting, or something very close to that greeting with an analytics standpoint. But now if let's say that, you could be something, as long as they're just friendly at the beginning, right? You can like dig deep into like intents, and you don't have to be very strict with what you can do. And, it's finding that sweet spot of what Otto sees, but what the human beings on your team see, right? And how the human aspect of that. And then that's how we kind of come together to calibrate, those type of calls to make sure that, they match how you guys score, not match really what maybe Otto sees as how it should be scored. That was kind of a more of a statement, but, I think that that's really important. And that's, some things that we've seen as well. John, let me throw this at you as well, because this is something that we've seen other customers do. And I know I've talked to your QA team a little bit about, but, could you see, again, all we're doing with Otto is we're asking questions of the data, right? Now, you want to use yours from a compliance, and you want to use yours from an agent perspective. Great. Other people are now using it from more of a analytics standpoint, where they're asking, how when a customer calls to cancel, why? And we're asking questions and getting deeper into that. I mean, can you think through like even some use cases where you could see that more from an analytics standpoint? Because that's really, really surprised me how I thought these analytic tools, and we use them too, and I love them, right? They're not as pinpointed, and it's almost like bringing the call disclosure and analytics kind of in the middle together.
Yeah, analytics itself, if you're using Agent Assist and it's popping knowledge bases or articles for agents, what's always interesting is, why are you calling to cancel? It's usually one of 5 reasons, right? At the end of the day, an agent can do that through dispositioning. I think where you see the strength in analytics in general is, what did that agent say that converted the customer or saved that customer, is where we've seen the most success from an analytics standpoint, is who's performing the best and what are they doing differently than everybody else,
right?
Is really why I like that, more of that analytics type work.
Nancy, you have a question on what language can it manage? And theoretically, DeepGram, which is the speech to text, how we get transcripts for audio calls, can manage really almost, I don't want to say every language, but hundreds of languages. ChatGPT, and by the way, I don't know if this is kind of surprising to anybody, but our core model now, we are not using ChatGPT 4, although we do utilize it. We have found that Claude 3 Sonnet, especially these guys we have found that for their form, Claude 3 Sonnet does a much better job of actually scoring and being much more consistent than what we found now with some of the things going on with ChatGPT 4. But the large language models can handle any languages as well. So we are working with customers right now that are doing Spanish. We are in talks with a company that is looking to do some things in Hebrew, which the only issues that poses is I don't read, and my team doesn't speak Hebrew or can read it. So we may have to translate. But theoretically, I mean, we could utilize really any language. Another question, and this one's for you too, John, specifically said for you. For a small call center of 60 to 65 agents who don't directly work with the client, rather that has a 4 to 5 back office, how can we use AI, or would AI be beneficial for us? I mean, that's just kind of a general AI question, maybe how you guys are utilizing and what you see as some of the quote unquote easiest ways to implement AI in your contact center, even if it's not for a customer or for a client, which I don't.
There's a few ways you could take that question. If it's Otto specifically, I would kick it to Tom. In general, yes, you can use AI on back office, and we do see that today from some of our clients where they're maybe processing documents or doing credentialing or something that doesn't require customer interaction. Yes, there are AI platforms that can monitor productivity and accuracy of those items. Also, there's probably some intent miners out there as well. That's, I would say, the back office and those, those types of inquiries are what we're seeing being automated more quickly than really the customer facing interactions, because the back office is becoming very repetitive. So that's really where, some of that AI out there can start, implementing it or automatically doing it.
Yeah. And I'm a big, AI that is not customer facing in 2024, right? So, using tools like AutoQA, using auto summarization, using agent assist, looking at advanced routing, starting to get your house in order for maybe next year or the year after, when maybe these large language models, I think, can be a little bit there's more guide rails, which they still make me a little bit nervous with going full for AI when it comes to customer facing things. Another question here, and I don't want to get too deep into this, Hassan, because it's not really the place for this, but how do we compare Otto with Balto? And if you look, Mark Bernstein, who's the CEO of Balto, we've done a bunch of videos together, kind of just talking a little bit about the difference. And again, I think that they're doing a kind of the model with the per seat licenses. I think they're going to be a little bit more expensive. I think their product, because they have millions of dollars, that the UI UX is going to be on point. There's some integrations that they already have built. I think we're going to be much less expensive than where they are right now. We're at the end of the day, we're both trying to do the same thing. And I think they're trying to do it really well too, with trying to build out everybody's prompt. We're trying to build out everybody's prompt. We're not trying to just, these CCAS guys just slap a tool on, right? Because they have to have it. But, there's not a huge ROI for them, with these kind of tools. Where for us, we're just trying to take something very basic and trying to do, something really, really cool with it. John, not sure if you can answer this. I understand that if you are not able to, but which telephony platform do you use?
Yeah, as a BPO, we're really on half of our clients bring in their own tech stack. So, AWS, we've seen, the biggest shift in the last 2 years, ultimately because of it's a per usage fee versus a per seat license. But we're on Genesys, TalkDesk, 8x8, UJet, and multiple other systems and platforms as well. But in this case, Tom, why don't you talk about just the telephony platform I'm on is really irrelevant in this scenario because of how we send you the calls anyway.
Yeah. I mean, for Otto, we're in the cloud, right? We're on Azure, right? So you are just going to basically sign up and literally it's 3 clicks of a button, right? To start running and analyzing calls. So it doesn't matter if you're on Five9, Nice CX1, Genesys, UJet, doesn't matter. Any of those platforms. We're very close to having full integrations. We're a BPO, as most of you guys know, at kind of our core business. And that's kind of how Otto was initially built. So, we're working through, we are CX1 shop as our kind of our house platform, something kind of like that. So we're building out integrations with CX1 first, and then we'll be moving to, all of the other platforms as well. Currently, you're manually kind of updating or scoring calls, just clicking buttons and uploading calls, which again, it takes to do 500 calls might take you 7 minutes, right? It's still extremely quick, compared to actually scoring. But, once we get this build out with integrations, people will be setting up plans, kind of like what you do today with a QMA platform, right? Where maybe you send a certain amount of calls to a QA agent. Now we're just going to send a certain amount of calls to Otto. So, hey, we want to do 500 calls. We want to have the handle time between 4 minutes and 7 minutes. And, what other type of metadata maybe we want to find. And then boom, we're just going to upload it. And we're just going to spit evaluation forms out to you. And then you can use that data to do anything else from a BI standpoint. So, all right, John, this went, I think we sounded way better than last time, where I was running around the building right now trying to find me not drowning underwater, which I sounded like. So I really do appreciate you coming back on, man, and kind of talking through the experience. I think, if everybody who follows me here on LinkedIn knows, I've been, shouting from the hoops or the hills on how awesome I think this is. But I think to have a customer come on, one of our very first customers, and kind of talk about their cool kind of use case for it and how well it's gone. And it's just going to get better from here. John, appreciate you, buddy. If there's no more questions, if you do have a question, hit me up on Twitter, on X, or on LinkedIn. DM me with anything you got. If you want to see a demo, you can go to the website. Dude, we just have a video there too. If you don't want to sign up for a full demo with me, just watch the video. It will give you kind of what we're doing and kind of how it can help you and hopefully help you. And then you can come on and take a demo with me. John, appreciate you, buddy. Right. Thank you so much, and we'll talk. I'll see you. I'll see you at CCW.
I'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right, buddy. Bye.
Yeah.